my channel. Welcome back to another video. I'm Jessie and you're watching. What's up, y'all? Hope everything is going well. In this video, I am going to be giving all of the tea and the detail on the books that I read in December of 2021, the very last month of 2021. So it was my last chance to get to those books that I didn't get to while the year was at its height, and I had a really interesting reading month. But before we get into the details on the books that I read, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is none other than Book of the Month. Book of the Month is an e-commerce subscription where every single month they throw 5 amazing books up on their website. You get to pick one of those books and they send it to you in this nice blue box. I have been working with Book of the Month for quite some time, and I really appreciate the service and what they do for the book community. It just saves you a whole bunch of time. Their books are also Book of the Month edition hardcovers that you literally can't get anywhere else, and they offer these books to you at an entirely unbeatable price. So there are times when you'll get to have a highly anticipated release in your hands before anybody else does. I have discovered some of my favorite books through this service, and I love that they will offer books that are highly anticipated. They will celebrate new debut emerging authors that you may not have heard of before, and also highlight some books that you'll have never heard of. Like, it's just such a really fantastic mix of hyped books, underhyped books, debut authors, etc. I have to show y'all this month's bookmark because it absolutely killed me. It says "Put me in, coach," and it's got a little dumbbell. You know what's funny about this? The only thing that most of us lift are these hardcovers. Okay, so I found this hilarious. So let me show y'all the 5 books that Book of the Month is spotlighting this month in January, because I have a lot of thoughts and feelings and opinions on them. So the first book is one that so many people are highly anticipating, and that is Fiona and Jane. This is a contemporary novel about 2 friends who are very close, and it's essentially about the intricacies of female friendship, the love, the betrayal, and so on, and I've heard nothing but good things about this book. We also have Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins, who is just an absolutely beloved author. I have not read a Hawkins book before, but this premise sounds really cool because it is set on an island. I love a remote, claustrophobic setting. It is a thriller, and one person turns up dead and another person turns up missing, and so the remaining friends have to figure out what the heck is going on. Then we have another highly anticipated book, and that is Black Cake. This is by Charmaine Wilkerson, and I am so excited about this. I was today years old when I realized that this is a face on the cover. I'm observant. Essentially, this is a book about 2 siblings who have grown apart. There's a gulf between them, and when their mother dies, they're very puzzled by the fact that she leaves them black cake as their inheritance. And so it's about them figuring out why their inheritance was what it was. Then we have The Magnolia Palace, and y'all know that I love my glitzy historical fiction novels, and so this is about a girl who is a model, and she falls on hard times and ends up going to work at this very elite mansion for this wild family, and she gets sucked into the world of their romantic trysts and stolen jewels and family drama, and I'm pretty excited about it. But the last book is one that I have been so deeply, readily anticipating, and that is none other than Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. We are reading this next month in February for Non-Binary Book Club. That's when it releases, so this is one of their early releases, and I'm so excited that I have a Book of the Month edition. Essentially, this is about 2 queer bakers who go to this baking competition, and one of them has just come out as non-binary for the first time, and the other is just an absolute goof, chaotic good kind of energy. Even though they're in competition with each other, they start to fall in love, but there's so many forces that are trying to keep them apart, and there's a lot of shenanigans and embarrassing times on TV, and I am so excited. I've heard that it's super funny, that it's amazing, so I would say make this your pick and read it with us for Non-Binary Book Club next month. I'm just saying. And Book of the Month also has add-ons, and I was so freaking geeked about the one that they just sent, because this is a book that I have wanted to read, and I have this weird love for books that are black and red on the cover.
I don't know why.
I don't know if you can see The Collective by Allison Galen, I think. Also a Book of the Month book. I haven't read it, but I have it on display because I love black and red covers. I don't know what's wrong with me. And so the book that I'm geeked about is The Maid by Nita Prose. Also, what a beautiful name. What? This person was literally born to be a writer. So this is supposed to be a kind of a comedic locked room mystery about this maid who's like trying to get her life together, and she stumbles upon this very wealthy man dead in his bed. And because she's neuroatypical and the police misread her demeanor as something suspicious, and so they criminalize her, and it's up to her to kind of solve this mystery because the police are going to arrest her if she doesn't figure it out. And I'm very, very geeked about this one. Those are the books that Book of the Month is spotlighting this month in January. If you want to get your very first box for only $9.99, use the code BOWTIES. It will be linked in the description box below. Really do enjoy Book of the Month as a service. Like I said, some of my favorite books have come from them, and they continue to put out amazing selections every single month. Use my code, sign up, save yourself some money, and big thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring another one of my videos. All right, y'all, let's discuss what happened in December. So I'm gonna do this new thing in my wrap-ups where I discuss my intentions for the month and contrast them with how I actually did. So let's revisit my December spread in my bullet journal. My reading plans were to read The Art of Dying by Ambrose Parry, and I pulled the Secret Lovers card, which had a prompt that said to read a book that has been on my TBR for many years, and The Art of Dying by Ambrose Parry was such a book. And I started it, I would say halfway through, and just December was too chaotic. I didn't end up finishing it, which really, really sucks because the writing was amazing. It is a medical thriller mystery and it is so good. It's historical, it's set in Edinburgh, and I love the cast of characters. It's phenomenal. And this book is following a female serial killer, and so it's giving like female Jack the Ripper. So good, cannot wait to finish it. The next card that I pulled was the Nalo Hopkinson card, which is to read Caribbean literature. And for that, I selected Olga Dies Dreaming, which was sent to me by Book of the Month last month. And it's the story about these two siblings who are the children of radical revolutionaries. And they go on to have their own lives. The son becomes a politician. He's a closeted gay man. And then Olga, the sister, becomes this like really big wedding planner with such a glitzy and glamorous life. And then their revolutionary mother comes back into their lives, and she's wanted by the FBI, and she's got political plans for her two children. And again, this is a book that I got well over halfway though this time. I think I only have like 50 or 60 pages left of this book, and it is amazing. The mom just came back into the kids' lives, and it's just, the romance is super funny. The characters feel so real. I'm loving all of the history. It's an incredible story. So I definitely will be finishing this book at some point in 2022. I also pulled the freshman card, which is to begin a new series. And the book that I chose for that was The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, which I did not even begin. Just didn't get to. Want to. It's still on my long TBR. But I didn't get to it. And for the Never Forget card, I decided to read This Is My America. And so the Never Forget card is a book that centers Black Lives Matter. This book I was able to begin and finish, and I gave it a whopping 5 out of 5 stars. In This Is My America, we are following 17-year-old Tracy Beaumont as she goes on a mission to clear her brother's name when he is accused of killing his white girlfriend. And this is a very racially loaded mystery about this community famous Black boy athlete who is so beloved, criminalized for his relationship with a white girl. Their father has been incarcerated, and so for the last several years, Tracy has been writing letters to Innocence X, which is this organization that helps people who are on death row. She and her brother have maintained that their father is innocent, and so it's also about their struggle there as well. However, this book has major Get Out vibes. I cannot say too much without spoiling, but I'm telling you, in terms of that like elaborate social horror Get Out vibes, you have to read this book. I was very skeptical about this book because of the subject matter. Black trauma, Black incarceration are very, very painful topics for me to read about. So I tend to not read really heavy racialized narratives like this because they can be bad for my mental health. But this book had such a phenomenal balance, and while it does explore some pretty heavy topics that negatively impact the lives of Black youth and Black individuals, but it did so in a way that did not feel traumatizing to the reader to experience, while also taking those issues seriously and presenting them in a way that was weighty, if that makes sense. I loved Tracy, I loved the brother, I loved their dynamic, I loved how Tracy as a character is she's so idealistic, and she believes that if you just work hard enough, you can achieve justice. And her brother is more skeptical. And so I loved the different types of political philosophies that were depicted in this book. I loved how big of a role the mother played in this book. There just were so many phenomenal things, and I could not urge y'all to read this book enough.
It is so freaking good.
The next card is the Fixer Upper card, and I love the illustration Olivia did for this. She's such an amazing artist. And the Fixer Upper card has a prompt of a BIPOC retelling of a classic. The book that I selected to satisfy that prompt is none other than She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. And I did not end up reading this book specifically because it was, after I selected it, it was voted as the January pick for NB Book Club, the non-binary book club that I operate. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna save this until January because I'm reading it for non-binary book club. So this is described as Mulan meets Song of Achilles, and it is sapphic. It is a lyrical reimagining of the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty, and it's supposed to be political and enjoyable and action-packed.
And I'm so excited.
I haven't started it yet, but ooh, and NB is ready. Details on that live show are going to be in the description box below. If I still have the graphic saved on my computer, I'll put it here for you. But the live show host is going to be Sandra of Got a Thing for Things, and I'm so freaking geeked. I cannot absolutely wait. Make sure that you're following Non-Binary Book Club if you aren't, because we're doing fun things, and we're going to be doing a giveaway for that book, so definitely follow us on Instagram. Then I pulled the best part card, which is to read a 5-star prediction. And my 5-star prediction was none other than The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. I read this book. My prediction was correct. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so freaking good. So this is a book where we are following two perspectives, two women. One whose name is Terrain. She is a soldier for the Empire, very much believes in law and order. And then on the flip side, we have Luca, who is trying to claim her throne that her uncle is operating like until she can prove that she is ready for it. Luca, of course, comes from a higher class, a higher caste than Terrain. But because her uncle is not trying to give her throne, she decides to kind of fuel this revolution that is boiling so that there can be conflict that she can swoop in and save in order to prove that she can have the throne. So there's a lot of political intrigue, there's a lot of backstabbing, a lot of moving parts, as well as so many social elements that affect these things. One of the things that I really loved was that we had so much intersectionality in this book. Luca is white and she has racial privilege, but she is also disabled. She has class privilege as well, but her disability impedes the ways that she is seen as capable. And then you have Terrain, who is from a lower racial and cultural class, but she is a soldier, and so she has privilege over those in her own community that have lesser status. And one of the biggest things that I really enjoyed about this book was the conflict between how to go about liberation. I just absolutely loved that commentary. I thought it was handled so well. There is a romance between Luca and Terrain, but I would argue that this is an anti-romance. In my humble opinion, I would argue that this is 100% an anti-romance and that C.L. Clarke wrote it that way with great intention. But obviously I had so many thoughts and opinions. I had so very much to say about this. I cannot wait for book 2.
So freaking good.
And the non-binary book club selection for December was Iron Widow by Ziran J. Zhao, and I am so excited that I read this because I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely and utterly loved it. One of my favorite books of the year. I cannot wait for the sequel to come out. Oh my goodness, I'm so freaking excited. So in this book, we are following Zeshin. She comes from a poor family and she ends up becoming a concubine pilot, which are used to power these giant chrysalises. They go into battle kind of attached to a man who has the ability to control the chrysalis. And essentially the chrysalis is powered by the female's energy. They very often die in battle while the man survives, and so it is very much a death sentence to be enlisted into the army as a female. In this book, she ends up enlisting so that she can get close to a certain boy and kill him because he killed her sister. She finds out that she's a lot more powerful than she ever knew, and it's about the people that she teams up with and her rising through these ranks in the military, and it is so freaking good. It is so political. It is really well written. The world building is phenomenal and still so accessible in my opinion. This is just one of the most elaborate, beautiful standout books I have ever read. I love Zeshin. I loved how loud and cutthroat and just absolutely brutal she was, and she has to be that way in order to make it, in order to survive. She has to constantly prove herself, and I loved there's like a polyamory situation. I cannot. Obviously, I had so much to say about this. And there is, we have a live show for Non-Binary Book Club. That is this month. So we're going to be discussing this book on live, and I'm so excited. And then y'all voted for this to be one of the books that I annotated in an Annotate With Me video. So that is going to come this month as well. I'm just so excited. So you're going to get more content on this book. Definitely come to the live show because it is going to be a very good time. Then for Sapphic-a-thon, the monthly readathon that I co-host with Jan, where we read Sapphic books, I read Mangoes and Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera, and the co-host for that was A Frolic Through Fiction, and we all had such a good, amazing time. So if you want to see that vlog, it will be linked down below. But Mangoes and Mistletoe is now one of my favorite sapphic books, one of my new favorite romances. It was so beautiful, and I just had a feeling that that book was going to be something that I loved. Kayla of Books and Lala recently sent it to me as a gift. It's sitting by the Christmas tree in the living room. So I'm just so excited that I own it because I listened to the audiobook on Scribd. And that narrator, the way that she brought the story to life and performed and delivered, it was so beautiful. I loved both of the characters, and it just, their chemistry, all of it was so, it was everything. And y'all know I'm not big into romance. So Mangoes and Mistletoe is about two Latinas who both are in this cooking competition, in this baking competition. And they are teamed up with each other. And it's about them trying to win this competition. But it's definitely a hate to love. They do not begin on the right foot. And so it's so freaking cute. I just cannot. It was a novella. I think was 7 hours, somewhere between 4 and 7 hours. It went by so fast, too fast. I would like a sequel. And it ended exactly the way that it should have ended. I also ended up reading One True Loves by Elise Bryant. This was one of my most highly anticipated books because I love Elise Bryant so much. In, I think, January of 2021, she came out with what was it called? Happily Ever Afters, which was just one of my favorite books of the year. It was so freaking good. Just absolutely, utterly amazing, incredibly moving. And I was so excited about this one because we're following a teen who decides to go on a trip. Black kids going on road trips, going on journeys is so special and important to me because I never got books growing up about Black kids going on vacations and having a fun adventure. It was always like slavery books or someone got murdered, something heavy. And so I feel like I'm rewriting my childhood with books like this, and it makes me really happy. And this book did not disappoint me at all. It is a companion novel to Happily Ever Afters, and the characters make a cameo. Basically, this is kind of a whirlwind romance about a girl who has to go on this boat cruise, and there's a hate to love relationship. There's a boy that she does not like immediately. They do not get off on the right foot. And it's about them kind of fighting for their romance. The mental health representation was so phenomenal. The relationship between her and her brother, the sibling relationship, was everything. That meant a lot. There's something going on with her brother throughout the entire book, and you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Why is he behaving this way? And just all of it was such a touching story. Again, it was a story where the parents play a big role, and that is so important to me. Oh, just so many things about this book that I loved. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I wrote a glowing review on Goodreads. Please read this book. It's so underhyped. I also read Oligarchy by Scarlett Thomas. This was sent to me by Counterpoint Press, one of my favorite publishing houses. I absolutely love them. And so we're following a a Russian girl, a group of girls rather, who are attending this boarding school in, I think it's England. Yeah, they're at a British boarding school, and it's about the issues that these girls have. They all struggle with disordered eating. It's a look at privilege and mental illness. I thought it was pretty good. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. The ending fell a little bit flat. I think that we had so many fantastic themes and we had a great premise, but it didn't go very far. I still think it's a really good book. I enjoyed it. I loved it for what it was, but this is not a book that's really going to be super memorable for me. And that is it. That is my wrap up for December. All of the books that I read at the very end of the year. My TBR is going to be out very, very soon for this month, so you're going to get the tea on what I'm going to be reading this month very, very soon. Thank you again to Book of the Month for sponsoring another one of my videos. If you want your first box for only $9.99, use the code BOWTIES. It's in the description box below. And if you would like more content from me, I have a Patreon, but all of my social media links are in the description box below as well. The Patreon dedicated video for this month is going to be me talking about book review practices that get on my nerves. I book review pet peeves, so I'm excited about that. And then we're doing a dedicated reading vlog for The Transition Baby, which is our January selected book club book, so I'm very excited. All right, y'all, be good to yourselves, be good to others, and I will see you soon.